Now, this illustration deals with AC systems of less than 50 volts. We just reviewed AC systems, basically of 50 volts to 1,000 volts, and 250.20 B as in boy. Now notice, again, let's look at the note first. Transformer is required to be grounded where its supply exceeds 150 volts to ground. Transformer is required to be grounded under those conditions. But now notice we're less than 50 volts to ground, and we have 24 volts there. Now, as long as we apply 250.20 A1, basically, A1 of that section, we would not have to ground that 24 volts. We could run it ungrounded, as you see in the illustration. Now, this is a illustration just showing not a wind generator now, but a windmill. And on the farm when I was a young boy, and I'm talking about 6, 7, 8 years old, we had a windmill, and we had an enclosure of metal with batteries. And as that windmill turned, it would charge those batteries, and we would have DC power in the house. And we had one plug that was DC over the fireplace, and we had a DC radio, and we had a DC pull chain in each room, light. And believe it or not, folks, I was uptown back then if you had that, until they brought the utility lines to the farm areas where you were kind of isolated out there in those days. But that was big time having that. And Dad serviced it. He took good care of it and everything. And we always would have DC power, and we would listen to the radio and listen to different programs, on the radio. So that's what that illustration's all about. I'm kind of showing what we did back when I was a young boy. But this goes on for any kind of power that is less than 50 volts, and you feed as the note says, you feed that primary. And as long as you're 150 volts or less to ground, you don't have to ground the secondary at all. Now, I'll give you another example. Say that you had a transformer, as you see in the illustration, a little low voltage transformer, and you bring in 120 volts, and you take out 8 volts, 12 volts, 16 volts, 24, whatever you need for your chimes. And notice you don't ground that secondary. I could even have 240 volt feeding that transformer, because you haven't seeded 150 volts to ground. See, you could have a 120 208 and feed 208 volt, 240 volt or 120, and you're still in the ballpark. And when you deal with the classification of your circuitry, then we have that listed up there for class 1, 2, or 3. See 725.41A and 725.121A. And we could see what those class 1, 2, and 3 circuits are. And they are defined in Article 100 of the NEC. So that's what the note's telling you, that the transformer's primary cannot be more than 150 volts to ground. Then you wouldn't have to ground the secondary. But if you brought in 277 volts and fed that transformer that you see in the illustration, that's more than 150 volts to ground, so you'd have to ground the secondary. That's what this illustration is pointing out, when you would have to ground the transformer of low voltage and when you would not. And we're talking about less than 50 volts is low voltage. Basically they're calling that now the limited energy voltage. It's a limitation to it. And that's what figure 16-15 is pointing out.